Good evening, baseball fans. How you doing? How you doing? Happy Wednesday. We're doing a little Q&A tonight. Michael Lorenzen just throwing himself a no-hitter. My goodness. Looks like the Phillies won the trade deadline, if you ask me. But as for tonight, which teams could be the next dynasties in Major League Baseball? As for this year, what are the Mariners' chances of making the playoffs? Should the Braves be worried? We got a lot of questions tonight. Let's get to it. How you doing, everybody? Hello. Who do we have here in the chat? A lot of members here in the chat. Hello. How you doing, everyone? We got Nicholas, one of our moderators here. How you doing? John Sullivan, all around Lacey. How you doing? Analytical side of sports. How you doing, my friend? Hello. Who else we got? We got Athletics 510. Jackson Robbins is in the chat. Scott Waldo. How you doing? Bob is here. How you doing, Bob? Conman752 had the first comment in the chat. First comment was that grand slam last night by Tucker one of the worst examples of baseball god karma you've ever seen? Because I feel like it's up there with Howie Kendrick Game 7 home run versus the Astros. Man, that was rather interesting with Kyle Tucker. It was just crazy, with everything that's been going on with the Orioles, with the broadcast booth, the suspension there. It's pretty, I don't know. I think the universe has a weird way of doing things sometimes, and that seemed like such a perfect example of karma. Their broadcaster getting suspended, for which I think was for the most ridiculous reason of all time, and that's what I love about that is everyone, no matter how much we argue about baseball, no matter how much we're at each other's throats when it comes to baseball or just anything in the world, I love how everyone came together in defense of him, and that suspension. And everyone realizes how ridiculous that suspension was. So shame on you, Baltimore Orioles, for doing that. Not the players, obviously the players had nothing to do with it, but the ownership. It's like, what the heck are we doing? I'll talk more about that in just a little bit. But we do got some questions to take care of tonight. Everyone, this is something I would like to do every week. I know I haven't really been doing hot takes or Q&As for, the last month or so. We had a lot of trade deadline coverage, a lot of rumors to talk about. I also just had a lot of videos I needed to work on, but this is something that I would like to do in the future consistently. So, hey, maybe Wednesdays, maybe Thursdays. I'll try to get a feel for it. So be on the lookout for weekly Q&As every single week where you can ask questions about whatever. You can write some baseball questions about this year, questions about the past, questions about my life. I don't know if you want to know anything there either, but whatever. Yeah, look out for the Q&As every single week. It's just another, good stream to do with all of you at home. So, everyone, again, thank you for stopping by. I have picked a handful of questions tonight on the community tab on my channel. That is where you're going to find me posting, saying, hey, you got a question? Ask me, right? Sometimes I'll put it on Twitter as well. So go follow me on Twitter if you haven't already. So be on the lookout for those every single week. Before we do get to the show, everyone, if you can help out the channel, subscribe if you are new. And everyone, the way you're going to be able to help me right now is just hitting that like button. It tells the algorithm, hey, there's something good going on in here. So if you can, hit that like button for me. Hit the bell notification. That way you know I go live every single time, whether that's something during the week, power rankings on Sunday, videos. I'm going to be getting back to some pre-recorded videos shortly. I'll get to that in just a second. And also share the stream if you can. Also, sponsoring today's show is Underdog Fantasy. I've been really enjoying Underdog Fantasy lately. I've been playing a lot of the drafts. I've been doing a lot of the pick'ems. Just to give you a quick idea of what Underdog Fantasy is, it is a daily fantasy site where, like I said, you can do daily drafts, you can do pick'ems. I've been really enjoying the drafts lately. I've always been a big fan of fantasy baseball drafts, but I like the daily drafts because, you know, it's just like a fresh start every single day, and I like going with guys. You know, I can look at how they've been doing lately. I can look at stats of guys that are, you know, playing hot, you know, and maybe even go with some guys that I think could be breaking out, and kind of use that to determine what my teams are going to be. So you can do a whole bunch of different drafts, $3, $5, $10, so on. You can also do pick'ems where you can go higher or lower. Even if games are going on at the moment, you can still even make pick'ems during that time. You know, obviously you got baseball. Football's coming back here soon, so you can do it there as well. You also have rivals where you can do head-to-head matchups. So obviously with baseball, everything is kind of underway at the moment, so they have nothing here. But you do got, you know, future rival contests where you can pick who's going to, you know, have more fantasy points in a game, who's going to have more hits in a game, who's going to have more total bases, more strikeouts in a game. So go check out Underdog Fantasy. Proud to say that they are sponsoring today's show. Really, really thankful to be partners with them. So everyone, let's get to it here. So like I said, I got questions that I've already picked. If you do have a question, if you want, try and drop it in the chat. If you want me to see it, the best way for me to see it would be a super chat. I've already picked the questions already. So if you do have something you want to ask, just drop it in the chat for me. So everyone, let's get to it here. So this is a fun one. I actually really like this question. I think it's, you know, hey, I always love the questions where, you know, what do you think about this team? What do you think about their chances? You know, so on. What do you think about this player or whatever? But I always just like, you know, kind of just, you know, water cooler talk. Like, you know, if you're just talking sports at a bar or something. I always love questions like these. So from Mr. Blues, he says here, what teams do you think have the best chance of starting a dynasty, whether it starts this year or based on what teams are building and their farm systems? So I have two teams in mind. I feel like a lot of people probably have these two teams in mind, but if we were to go take a look here, for me, first off, right now in this moment, I would have to say the Atlanta Braves. Right now for me, the Atlanta Braves, they're just looking like a powerhouse kind of a team. The farm system has really been depleted over the last few years, you know, whether that's guys coming up to the major league level or, you know, guys being used in trades and so on. But to me, the Atlanta Braves really are that team right now that is built to be a dynasty. They just won a World Series a couple of years ago, and they are in a prime position to really go for it again this year. I mean, what else is there to say? I mean, look at what you already have here in this lineup. It's tremendous. Ronald Acuna Jr. just having an incredible season. Matt Olson just hitting for a ton of power. Austin Riley having another solid season. Ozzie Albies having a great season. And then you just have these other guys like Sean Murphy leading the way behind the plate. You know, Michael Harris II, an electric young player who won Rookie of the Year. You know, to me, when you have these kind of players, not just their offensive game, but what they can also do in the field as well. Like obviously with Sean Murphy, one of the best catchers in the game offensively and defensively. Michael Harris II, who's just tremendous on both sides of the ball. You know, sure, you know, I love me some Orlando Arcia. If they did have, you know, if Vaughn Grissom if he was able to really, you know, emerge as that shortstop of the future, then I think that would even make this team better. But Orlando Arcia, he's been having a really solid year this year. So to me, I think they're pretty much built, because the way I look at a team, I look at how, I've said this multiple times, how strong are they up the middle when it comes to the field? I always look at, What do they have at catcher? What do they have at shortstop? Second base as well. Center field. I always like when a team is just built up the middle in a strong way. And the Braves are built very strong up the middle. But then obviously you got to look at starting pitching as well. I always look to see, does a team have, if they're really built for a dynasty, do they have a young starting pitcher that's going to be under control for at least the next few seasons? You got that in Spencer Strider. I know he got knocked around. We'll get to the Braves here in a little bit. I know he got knocked around the other night against the Pirates, but to me, Spencer Strider is easily going to be one of the best pitchers in the game, and he's not even 25 years old yet. So the fact that they already have that, I know Max Fried is coming up on free agency, so that's going to be a big if they're going to be able to, sign him to an extension. Bryce Elder has really emerged this year. So they are really set up when it comes to starting pitching, and bullpen, whatever. The Braves have an amazing bullpen this year, but, the Braves always seem to put together really good bullpens, so I'm not really worried about that. The only thing with the Braves is just the farm system needs to be restocked. But if we're looking at right now, the fact that they won 2 years ago, they could definitely win it again this year, and they're primed to try and go for a few World Series here in the next few years. So when I think of a dynasty, I think of a team. Obviously, the last dynasty that we had was the New York Yankees in the late 90s and the early 2000s. So they won the World Series in 98, 99, and 2000. That's the last team to have a three-peat. I think the Braves are in that, and obviously you can go to the Giants too. The Giants, they definitely won a few there. The Royals, they had back-to-back years there where they were looking really good. When I think of dynasties, to me, the last true dynasty was the Yankees, at least in my opinion. I know Giants fans will have something to say about that. But when I'm thinking of a dynasty, I'm thinking every year in a row, a three-peat. Like that to me is just like you cannot beat that team. Where the Giants, they had gaps in between. No disrespect to the Giants. I'm just saying, when I think of a dynasty, I do think of the Yankees. Personally, I understand other people will have different opinions about that. So to me, I think the team that has that chance of being at least, if you were to say the Yankees are the number one dynasty lately, say the Giants are number two, I think the Braves, they have the best shot right now to be in that conversation with the Yankees and the Giants. So a team that I think is very well built for the future, that I think could really start emerging here. I mean, they're already emerging this year, but to be an actual World Series contender year to year, all the Baltimore Orioles. I mean, this team has really done something special this year. They were doing something special last year. Couldn't quite get the job done to get into the playoffs, but look what the Orioles are doing this year. Unfortunately, we've just had the whole thing, with the broadcast booth in the last couple of days, so that's really put a damper on this. So, but hey, at the end of the day, the players had nothing to do with that. So focusing on what they have, I mean, when I look at the Orioles, if you want to talk about up the middle, like I mentioned with the Braves, when you're looking at what they have at catcher, what they have at shortstop, second base, center field, I mean, man, the Orioles are really built. They have just the next best catcher in the game in Adley Rutschman. At short, you got Gunnar Henderson. I mean, come on now. Like center field, you got Colton Cowser. I mean, that is phenomenal up the middle. I mean, goodness. And they have other guys that can come up here eventually. I know you got Adam Frazier here right now. But the Orioles are stacked when it comes to these position players. Like, it is phenomenal to me. Now, the only area that I think needs to really be built up more would be the starting pitching. You have a young starting pitcher in Grayson Rodriguez, just like with the Braves, they have a Spencer Strider. So, if they could get another guy that could really just help lead this rotation with Grayson Rodriguez in the future, that would be awesome. Obviously, same thing with the Orioles, a great bullpen this year. But when it comes to the Orioles, like, they still have this phenomenal farm system. So if we were to take a look here at the organizational rankings, where are the organizational rankings? So hold on one second. Let me go pull this up here. Baseball America organizational rankings. So let's pull this up. Did Baseball America take it down? I don't know why it's not coming up now. All right, whatever. I'll go the Fangraphs route. I'll go take a look at what they got. It's going to be pretty similar. So if we were to go to Fangraphs, so as of right now, Baltimore still has a top 10 farm, despite all these younger guys coming up. So they're built now and they're built for the future. So that, to me, I think they're just looking really strong in pretty much every single aspect when you're looking at the up the middle of the team, the spine of the team, catcher, second base, shortstop, center field. They have a young ace for the future in Grayson Rodriguez that you can build around in the rotation. Hey, the stout bullpen this year. If they can get it built this year, I'm sure they have that ability to keep going with it in the future. And they have good value in this farm. If we were to take a look at a couple other teams, I think the Dodgers are always going to be in that conversation of, potential dynasties. I know, the Dodgers, they always like to, they never like to get it done in the postseason, but when you look at the farm system and when you look at the talent that they have and, Betts and Freeman, I think the Dodgers have the potential to be in that conversation. The Rangers, let's see what they can do. They've really put together a squad there, and they have a top 10 farm system according to Fangraphs. They got some good prospects there. So I think you got a few teams here that really are built. So to me, the 4 teams that are built for a dynasty, I would say the team right now would be the Braves, and I would say for the future, you'd probably put the Orioles up next, probably go with the Rangers after them, and then, probably the Dodgers. So to me, those teams are in the conversation of winning multiple World Series over the next 5 seasons. If you want to call that, a dynasty, winning multiple World Series over the next, 5, 6, 7 seasons, let's just say 5 seasons, I think all of these teams have a chance to really win a World Series. I'd say the Braves most likely. And then I would say, for me, the Orioles, the Rangers, and the Dodgers would come up next. So could my Red Sox be a dynasty? I don't know about that. Hey, you go back to the Red Sox, they definitely had some World Series victories there. I had 4 World Series since 2004, but those are really spread out, so I don't know. You can't call that a dynasty, but, when they won in 2004 and they won in 2007, I don't think you can call that really a dynasty, in my opinion. It's too spread out. I look at multiple World Series championships that are pretty close together, but multiple World Series. So that was a good question. I think that was pretty fun to just kind of think about and really dive into. But also, real quick, I do want to touch on this. When it came to, I've already mentioned it a couple of times. I just want to give my thoughts on this because I haven't been live, since this happened. But Kevin Brown being suspended, it looks like he's coming back shortly. I think so. They said here that the Orioles said here that he's going to be returning soon. It is wow. I have never seen so much support for an announcer. You always got the broadcasters, they always mess something up. It seems like the broadcasters always tend to get the negative attention when something happens, and this is the first time, at least that I can think of, I know I'm probably missing one, where a broadcaster is getting all of the support, and I love it. I love that everyone is coming together for Kevin Brown because it was ridiculous. All Kevin Brown did, in case I'm sure most everyone here in the chat knows what happened, but Kevin Brown, he was doing the pregame for the Rays. The Orioles, they have not had a lot of success when it comes to playing the Rays, especially at Tropicana Field. It's not just the Orioles. My Red Sox can never win at Tropicana Field. It's a nightmare playing there. But he was pretty much just going through some numbers here. Last 16 series, they were 0-15-1. Last series win came back in 2017, so it's 6 years ago. They have done well this year at Tropicana Field, 3 wins in the 5 games. But from 2020 to 2022, 3 total wins in 21 games. And pretty much the Orioles, they took that as he was talking negatively about the Orioles. Now, I've heard, organizations, they don't want the people that work for them to talk negatively about their team, which is so crazy to me. Because to me, I don't know, man. Like, I think obviously you want to be talking positive about the team that you're, calling games for. But what's wrong with talking about, some negative things? To me, I don't think you want to get like too crazy personal. Like Dennis Eckersley, that moment with David Price that he had on the airplane. David Price didn't like when Eckersley called out Eduardo Rodriguez for a bad start that he had, and Price took a lot of offense to it. He stuck up for his teammate, and he confronted Dennis Eckersley on the plane, and obviously that garnered a lot of attention. So I think Eckersley, I can understand why a player reacted in that way and was sticking up for his teammate, because, hey, they're teammates, it's a brotherhood there. They were guys in the rotation too, so they were, he was sticking up for him. So I can see that, where like, if you're going to be a broadcaster and you're going after an individual player, I could see that. But even then, it's like, if you're calling it how it is, maybe you could word things differently, right? If a guy is not performing very well. Because Dennis Eckersley, what he said, I believe the word he used was, when he started talking about Eduardo Rodriguez, was the word yuck, all right? So I could see where maybe, Price got a little annoyed at that. The way he handled the whole thing was completely terrible. But, when you're talking about the team over the last few seasons, going back to 2017, you're not calling out individual players. You're calling out just the franchise and how they're doing at a stadium. I don't see what is wrong with that. If he was really getting on to an individual player, then okay, I could see the argument there. But to me, I don't see what he did. Like, I've really tried thinking about this, since this happened. I'm thinking, like, I wonder what the Orioles were thinking here. I'm not defending them. I'm just thinking, what was in their heads about this? Why were they even going this route? Was there an individual sentence that he said that, kind of upset them? Or like, but no, I listened to what he said like over and over, and I could not find one thing at all. I was thinking maybe he said like one thing in like a weird way or something. No, he didn't say anything. I think that's completely ridiculous, and the Orioles, they should be ashamed of themselves. They owe him an apology. They need to come out and make a statement and said, you know what? We were wrong about this. I'm not sure how the pay is working. If he's had, is he still getting paid? I'm sure that is out there somewhere. I don't know. But if he is not getting paid, that's ridiculous. I think they owe him a great apology. To me, when I think of the broadcasters, I'm always going to love Don Orsillo and Jerry Remy, and the way Don Orsillo was kind of treated on the way out with the Red Sox, that still bothers me to this day. These guys, this is the face of your broadcast, right? These are the guys that are calling your games. And, when you're putting on the game at home, this is the face that you see every day. And I just don't see why they're treating him like this. Again, is he already back in the booth? It's your boy. Okay. I thought he was coming back. It says here, this was posted 3 hours ago. Orioles say broadcaster Kevin Brown will return soon as fans call out the team. It says Brown is expected to be back on the mic on Friday. So I didn't see that, but no. So anyway, those are my thoughts. I think it's ridiculous. Everyone thinks it's ridiculous. He didn't say anything wrong. I really went through it a few times. I didn't really see one thing. He wasn't talking about an individual player. He wasn't even talking about multiple players. He was talking about the organization as a whole going back to 2017. There's nothing wrong with what he said. I think it's ridiculous. The Orioles, they should be ashamed of themselves. They should absolutely do a public apology here. Even have Kevin Brown Day. Kevin Brown bobblehead day. They got to do something for him. I think it's ridiculous. So, moving on here. Moving on. Let's get to the next question. Let's dive into a few teams and what's going on with them right now. But real quick, let's take a look at the super chat. Brendan DH, Robbie, take it from me as a fan of the Detroit Tigers, who have the worst broadcasting team of all time. People value a good broadcaster. That's why Orsillo and Remy, listen, excuse my giraffe neck Robbie, but they were amazing. Whatever. Even if you weren't a Red Sox fan, They were fantastic. There's many other broadcasters out there that have been just legendary. Obviously, Vince Scully, but to me, yes, the broadcasters are the guys that it feels like you're watching the game with them, right? That's why to me, I loved Ursillo and Remy. I loved putting on the game every night. I loved hearing them in the back. Even if it was just background noise, I always loved the conversations that they would have. I completely agree, Brendan. I completely agree. So, moving on here, let's talk about the Seattle Mariners. Could the Mariners have a dynasty? We talked about dynasties to start the show. But the Mariners, this is from, I don't know how the heck you say this name. Diagera of the Akatsuki. I'm sorry, I'm botching that completely. Hey, how you doing, my friend? If the Mariners stay hot, do you think they could potentially steal the West or the wild card since they have one of the easiest schedules going forward? So, the Mariners, right? Obviously, this is a very talented team. They have amazing pitching. So, I didn't mention the Mariners in the teams that I picked just because they're still trying to find their way this year. But let's pull up the Mariners, shall we? Here we go. Hold on one second. All right, so the Mariners. So again, could they make the playoffs? All right. Well, they've been playing some great baseball lately. They are starting to creep up. They're even creeping up in the West. They're 6 games back as of right now. Fangraphs to make the playoffs as of right now gives them a 32.8% chance to make the playoffs, 6.4% to win the division. If we're looking at the current standings when it comes to the wild card, the Mariners are 2 games back. They're 8-2 in their last 10. They've won 6 straight. Listen, I've been saying this about the Mariners for quite a while. This is a good team, and the wins just weren't coming together. If we were to take a look at the Mariners when it comes to their WRC plus ranking for the entire year, they are 15th overall with a 100 WRC plus, middle of the road. However, when you combine the base running as well, they have a negative 5.4 offense. So this is an offense that just hasn't really gotten it together this year. They're middle of the road when it comes to the bats. However, if we look here at their ranking over the last 2 weeks, these bats have been really heating up. They are now 6th overall in WRC plus. The base running still isn't quite there. It's still in the negatives, but the bats are coming alive. If we were to take a look at what some of these guys are doing, Julio Rodriguez is finally turning it on. This is, to me, he's the straw that stirs the drink, right? Julio Rodriguez, when this guy's on, it seems like everyone's on. He's been hitting 365 over his last 12 games. JP Crawford hitting 325. Dylan Moore in the last 8 is hitting 381. Tom Murphy's even hitting. Ty France is getting on base. Eugenio Suarez is driving in runs. The offense is coming alive. And even Cade Marlowe's been doing some damage here and there. So this offense is coming alive, and that is the key. I've been saying this about the Mariners every single week when it comes to when we do the power rankings every week. The Mariners, they have fantastic pitching. I mean, if we take a look here at what they're doing when it comes to the pitching, they're 4th overall in starting pitching on the year. A FIP of 3.84, the 3.92 ERA. These are solid numbers. They're keeping the walks down. Good starting pitching. When you got these guys in this rotation, like Luis Castillo, like George Kirby, like Gilbert as well. And then you got Bryce Miller. Emerson Hancock actually just got called up, so that's going to be fun to see what he does. But they got great pitching. Obviously they got Wu too. I think did he get sent back down? Or no, he's on the IL with a forearm inflammation. Hopefully that is nothing too serious. So, but even without him, really solid pitching. And not just in the rotation, in the bullpen as well. They're ranked 3rd in Fangraph WAR when it comes to the relief pitching this year. Good amount of strikeouts, keeping the home runs down. 3.49 ERA. I mean, these are really solid. The Mariners can pitch. The key was the bats, and that was what was holding them back. They were so inconsistent. They were so middle of the road, and now the bats are awake, and they're just having better at-bats. It's just looking like a completely refreshed Mariners team. I was intrigued, with the trade that they made of Seawald, to the Diamondbacks. I was thinking, man, like Seawald, I know you got Rojas back in the deal, with Rojas, sure. I like when a guy, can come in and he can, play multiple positions. And, I do like Josh Rojas. I don't know. I was just kind of confused about the trade itself. But hey, you know what? Right now, everything is looking really good. And the Mariners absolutely have a chance. They could definitely get into this thing. And if we're looking at the wild card race right now, now they have leapfrogged the Red Sox and the Yankees. My Red Sox actually won tonight, thank freaking goodness. But the Red Sox and the Yankees, they just don't. I don't think they have it this year. I don't think they have it for a playoff run. The Mariners coming into this year, I thought were a more talented team. It's pretty crazy when we're looking. Let's just take a step back here for a second. Isn't it crazy that right now the Rays, the Astros, and the Blue Jays are playoff teams, and then you got the Orioles and the Rangers and the Twins as your division leaders? Like, it looks so backwards compared to the last couple of years. It's pretty funny. But yes, absolutely, I do think the Mariners can make the playoffs. I don't think they win the West. I think there's too much beef there. But they could definitely get a wild card spot. It's going to be up to also the Blue Jays. Are the Blue Jays going to be able to really just keep playing some solid baseball? That would be crazy if the Blue Jays didn't make the playoffs. Like, that would be nuts. But the Mariners could do it. They could definitely do it. We'll just have to wait and see. The key is the bats. So, moving on. Let's stay in the West. Let's talk about the Angels. From Greg Diamond, one of our members, can the Angels put together a run for a wild card spot, or is the franchise poisoned from the top down through the players? Man, oh man. Just to answer this question real quick, no, I don't think they can put together a run. Could they go on a run? Sure, they could go on a run. Is it going to be enough to make the playoffs? I'm confident that that's not going to happen. They're 57 and 58. They're 7.5 back. They would have to go on a tremendous run to really get this done. I just don't see it. You got too many teams out in front. Even though the Red Sox and the Yankees I don't think are quite there, these are still two teams that are going to be hard to leapfrog because they're still going to be playing at least decent baseball, right? And the Angels, they've really just dug themselves a hole. But getting back to the other question, is this organization poisoned from the top down? Yeah, I think so. I think Artie Moreno needs to go. I don't know what is going on in this organization. I don't know the ins and outs, like who is in what positions and whatnot. Do they have the right coaches there? Do they just have the right mix of players? Do they have the right people in the analytical departments and the scouting departments? And I don't know. I just think Artie Moreno needs to go. I think, to me, the way I've always looked at companies and how they operate, successful companies always have good ownership at the top. And to me, Artie Moreno has been a guy, yeah, he's opened up the checkbook, and I think that's good. But I'm not saying Artie Moreno is the reason that the Angels aren't playing up to their capabilities. I think it's just a matter of it's a trickle down, right? I don't know who these people are in these positions, but to me, the guy that's leading everything, it seems like Artie Moreno, remember before the season started, he was looking at selling the team, and then he said, no, never mind, I'm going to stay with the team. I don't know where he's at, honestly. Like, I don't know what's going on. Like, Steve Cohen, that's a guy that's very involved, and that hasn't worked out with the Mets, but at least with Cohen, you look at what the Mets did compared to what the Angels did. The Mets realized, no, we don't have it this year. We're going to get rid of, Verlander, Scherzer. We're going to trade David Robertson, and we're going to bring in some high-profile prospects, right? The Angels did the opposite. They just bought. To me, like, Lucas Giolito, that was a fun ad, but really Lucas Giolito is not going to put you over the top. I appreciated that they went out and did it. I gave them praise, because at least they went out and did it, that they were, after keeping Ohtani, yeah, sure. I appreciate the fact that they went out there and made moves, because at least if you're going to make that decision, back it up, right? But it's just, to me, if I were to go back, now, and this isn't even a hindsight thing. This is going back then. I remember thinking when it happened, the Angels never have it. They don't have it ever. And, you know, they got hot there for a little bit, but they never are able to put it together. You know, could they have put it together? Sure. But to me, I would have traded Ohtani. I would have traded him. Again, I don't know what. That's easy for me to say because I don't know what the actual market was like. I don't know what teams were offering. He had a very high value. It was going to cost a lot to get Shohei Ohtani for 2 months. So I don't know what the market was like. I'm not going to sit here and sound like I'm an expert. You know, people are going to say, oh, they should have traded Ohtani. That's easier said than done. You don't really know what's happening out there. You don't know how aggressive teams were for him. You know, because if you trade Ohtani, you do want to get something back. You do want to get something good. Were they getting good offers? To me, I think they should have traded him. I think, in my opinion, if I were to make like a prediction, I think they would have gotten something good for him, even if it was like one top prospect. I think you should have done that. And then they gave up, you know, multiple prospects to bring in Lucas Giolito, to bring in, you know, Crone and Grishik, and then Reynaldo Lopez, who is now, he's on the IL? Oh, he's on the bereavement list. So, you know, obviously it stunk losing Taylor Ward, so that was not something that was planned. I don't know. I would have traded Ohtani. That's just my opinion. I think they really messed up on that, and now he's going to leave, and he's probably going to go to the Dodgers, honestly. To me, I think Ohtani, I think it would be nuts, man, if he ends up re-signing with the Angels. I don't know, man. Even the thought of that, like, that just, I can't even think of a word, because that sounds just so ridiculous that Ohtani would even want to stay with the Angels. I don't know what's going through his head. I don't know what he's thinking. Maybe he really likes it with the Angels. I don't know, but the guy wants to win. You know, I think that the guy, in my opinion, is only going, obviously he wants to win. We can look at it from, you know, a personal point of view from that standpoint, right? He's a winner. He wants to go win a championship. But there's also advantages from a business point of view too, right? If he goes to a winning team, that's only going to increase his marketability. You know, it's only going to increase his potential earnings, right? So from an emotional standpoint of him just wanting to win, and from just a business point of view, it makes sense for Ohtani to go to a team that has proven themselves to be in playoff contention every single year. So we'll have to see where he goes, but I do think Artie Moreno needs to go. I think you just need new people in these positions. I don't know what's happening here with this Angels team. It seems like they're just stuck in the past, and it seems like I don't know, they just don't seem to really, it feels like they're a step behind what the successful teams are doing, obviously when it comes to their record, but just how teams operate, you know, how teams are developing players, you know, looking at these more analytical moves, these more savvy moves, you know, getting these under the radar guys that could maybe emerge for you. Maybe you see something in players that are on the market that maybe other teams don't, and you can get the most out of a guy out there. That's like, you know, what the Rays do. They always go get these guys out there that they just find strengths in these players, and they're able to contribute to the team. And it seems like the Angels don't really do things like that. You know, sure, you brought in Moniak. That was a good one. You know, where you got him from the Phillies for Syndergaard, and you took advantage of that. So that, you know, hey, they were able to get something out of him. But I feel like they need to do more moves like this. So, you know, I think they really just need to build the next generation of players. To me, I think the Angels, man, you got to just reset. I think the Angels, in my opinion, man, I think you got to do just a good, hard reset. I'm not even kidding. I would even trade Trout if I could. If I was able to get rid of Trout, I would do it. You know, like, I know that sounds crazy. I know, like, that's their guy, and that's like their, you know, he puts a lot of butts in the seats, but he's getting hurt a lot now. to me, like, if I want to just do a reset with this team. I think build that farm system back up, get back on the right track for the future. When you are back to winning baseball again, get some new jerseys, just freshen up this team, freshen up this organization. I think they really need it. So anyway, I've rambled on long enough about the Angels. Let's move on. Should we be worried about the Atlanta Braves? The Atlanta Braves lately. Joshua Anderson, how concerned are you with the Braves starting pitching? So I think this is a good question. And I think there is a little, I think there's something there to where I think it's reasonable to be a little worried about the starting pitching. This is something that I have said for a little while now. And I remember I was doing power rankings, and you always get the fun people that always come in the streams, and they're always like, oh, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about, yada, 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 yada. But I said this a while ago about the Braves. I said I was worried about their starting pitching, and then I had like people spamming in the chat during the power rankings saying, oh, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. The starting pitching is great. I had these people leaving comments, and it's like, I mean, yeah, I love their starting pitching, but I felt like, I don't know, I felt like they lacked a little depth because they had some injuries. You're going to be getting Kyle Wright back, Max Fried. He's looked good since coming back. So, I think they're going to be fine. You got to remember, you're in the dog days of August right now. I think you could maybe be a little concerned. I wouldn't be too concerned. If I were to do like a out of 10, I would maybe say like a 4 out of 10, 3 out of 10, maybe just keep an eye on it kind of a thing. But I think they're going to be fine. When it comes to Atlanta, lately, over the last 14 days, Atlanta is 24th in FIP with a 5.24. ERA at a 5.66. Spencer Strider getting knocked around. Charlie Morton's been pretty ineffective lately. Bryce Elder hasn't been pitching his best. I think when it comes down to playoff time, if Strider and Fried are on top of their games, that to me is going to be really hard to beat. I wouldn't be too concerned right now. This is the month that teams just need to get through. They call it the dog days of August for a reason, right? So, no, I wouldn't be too concerned. I would have felt better if they would have gotten Michael Lorenzen. I was saying that forever, and the Phillies ended up getting him, and he threw a no-hitter for them tonight. I thought Michael Lorenzen was perfect for the Braves. What? I don't know. So that to me was a guy I feel like they should have gone out and gotten. I can respect that you pretty much stood pat. You made some smaller moves, but I feel like one more starting pitcher would have been nice, especially when your team is just so good this year. But then again, the Phillies did offer Hao-Yu Lee, who is a pretty decent prospect. So, it is what it is. I don't know what the Braves could have, if they did make an offer, if it wasn't very good. But I wouldn't be too crazy about the starting pitching right now. I think a little concern, I think, is fine. Let's see how they do over the next couple of weeks. So, moving on. How about in the American League? Let's talk about the Tampa Bay Rays. Should you have concern for the Rays? Speaking of starting pitching, losing McClanahan. This one is from Dr. Strange 2273. Do the Rays still have a chance to win it all with all of their pitching injuries? This is interesting, man. The Tampa Bay Rays. Man, oh man. Okay, here's the thing about the Rays, right? Here's the thing about the Rays. I still like what they have in this rotation. Is it going to be, like a big three like the Mariners got, with the Kirby and Gilbert and, Castillo? Is it going to be like the Phillies, with Zach Wheeler there? And, I know Aaron Nola's not having a great year, but still Aaron Nola to me is Aaron Nola. Whatever. Do they have a flashy looking rotation that looks amazing, right? I wouldn't say it's amazing looking, but I still think it's really solid. Glasnow coming back this year, healthy and pitching effectively, obviously is huge. Like, if they don't have him, I'm worried. You got Eflin, who's having a good year. That's proved to be one of the better signings from the offseason. He's been having a really good year. You did just bring in Aaron Savali. He got knocked around a little bit. But to me, Savali is a guy that you can give the ball to game 3. I would be okay with that. So to me, if you got Glasnow game 1, Eflin game 2, Savali game 3, I think you're okay there. I still think, obviously McClanahan, having him would really just be such a lift. And that is a bummer that they're going to be losing him for the rest of the year. But I still think they're in an okay spot. They're starting pitching over the last couple of weeks. If we go take a look, Tampa Bay, over the last 2 weeks, they are second overall in FIP with a 3.40. They're not getting a whole lot of strikeouts, but they're keeping the walks down. They're keeping the home runs down. I think the Tampa Bay Rays are still fine. I think a lot of people have started kind of sleeping on them a little bit. I feel like the Orioles obviously have, really gained a lot of attention here. That, winning 70 games. Everyone thought the Rays were going to be well on their way to 100 wins before September began. But here we are, Orioles at 70 wins before the Rays. But I still think you should not sleep on this Rays team. They're just very good all the way around. The bullpen, they got off to a rocky start, but the bullpen has been pretty decent over the last month or two. Starting pitching, I'm still okay with. I'm okay. As long as you got 3 guys that can give you quality starts, that have the potential to give you quality starts in the playoffs, I think that's fine. It's a deep offense. To me, I'm okay with this Rays team. I'm still fine. So, moving on. All right, so we've kind of gotten through the teams of, with this year, right? We got a few fun questions to end the show here. Going to try and keep this show around an hour for tonight. So, really like these questions. These are always fun. I love going down memory lane. I always love just thinking of favorite memories. And this one was kind of fun to think about. Salty Wings and Avs fan, I think that means the Avalanche, says here, what's your favorite moment in baseball that you watched in person or live TV? So, I'm going to give you a pretty generic answer here, coming from a Red Sox fan. 2004, obviously, them winning the World Series. That was during my earlier years of being a Red Sox fan. I was definitely entrenched in Red Sox Nation at this point. I really started paying attention to the Red Sox in 2000. That was kind of when, and even before that, 99, 98, when Pedro against the Indians, I remember that. Troy O'Leary, always loved me some Troy O'Leary. But 2004, I was really into it. I was watching every game. I had the Dish Network package at the time. You had no streaming stuff back then, but I had the MLB Dish Network package, and I would watch every single game. All right, I always begged my parents to, get that for me so I could just watch the game. They thought, hey, this will keep him out of trouble. He'll be at home. He'll be watching baseball. And every year, into every game in 2004, 2003 was when I really became a nutcase. And 04, I just remember, watching the playoffs in 03 with the Yankees, with the Red Sox, obviously, with Aaron Boone. That was just, it was heartbreaking. And then the next year, you just have this roller coaster of not just, the playoffs, obviously, but the regular season too. So it was so cool to see them win a World Series in 04, and just thinking of all the people that have been watching them for years. It was just a cool moment. To me, the one that really sticks out in my mind was the Shane Victorino Grand Slam in the ALCS in 2013. I just remember just how I reacted, right? When he connected on that, it was nuts. I had a neighbor at the time. It was actually my best friend. His sister was my neighbor. And I was so loud that she started banging on the wall. And it was, I lived in an apartment complex, so she lived right next door. And I just lost it. I went nuts. I couldn't believe it. Another good one. I will actually, if you want to think of favorite reactions, speaking of Grand Slam, I have a thing for Grand Slams in the postseason. What can I say? And there was another one. Go back Go back to 2007. JD Drew. Remember the Red Sox? They were down 3-1 in that series to the Indians. The Indians at the time, right? And then they were coming back. Game 6, back at Fenway. JD Drew had a pretty tough season that year. Hit a grand slam. Definitely not, an all-time favorite Red Sox to a lot of people, most people. But, man, when he hit that, I went absolutely nuts. But speaking of, if you were to pick a non-Red Sox moment, I would probably say the Cubs in 2016. I would say the Cubs. That was just really cool to watch. And, obviously I had, the same thing with the Red Sox, but the Cubs had it even worse, So, and obviously, going back to 2003, always remember the Bartman play. When they won in 2016 and just that marathon Game 7, that was really fun to watch. I'll always remember that. So, moving on here. Moving on to the next question. We got two more. Now, when it comes to this next question, this is more one that's in person, right? So, Ethan's Tech World, he says here, greatest baseball game atmosphere you've seen in person. For me, easily, it was just the World Baseball Classic game I went to with Puerto Rico and Venezuela. Insane. In Miami, I went with Wardy NYM. I went with Ballcap Sports. I went with Mike of Stark Raving Sports. Absolutely insane environment. Everyone was high energy the entire game. People chanting, banging on drums, waving flags. That was an insane atmosphere. The entire stadium was shaking the entire time. I was in love with the game in that game against Puerto Rico and Venezuela at the World Baseball Classic. That was so intense, the entire game. It was so cool. I can't wait for the World Baseball Classic to come back. And we got a fun one here. And also, if I were to pick out a couple more, it's funny because these are actually more heartbreaking memories for me. When I went to Tropicana Field, I've been to a couple walk-off losses for the Red Sox at Tropicana Field. But, man, those Rays fans, they get pretty loud when they get a walk-off win. And, those stadiums just going crazy like that, man. It's always fun. Even if you're on the losing end, it's still pretty fun. The last one, this is a pretty fun one. Who would I want as a partner in a bar fight from Dulcie Marist? I just thought this question was hilarious. Listen, I know I'm probably going to get made fun of for this one. I'm going to get made fun of. I can already see it. The guy I'm going with size, right? I'm going with Aaron Judge. I'm going with Judge, man. Whatever. Say what you want, broken this, broken that, hurt this, hurt that. I don't care. Aaron Judge is 6'7" and weighs 280. No one's going to mess with that guy. I don't care how hurt he is. I don't care. The dude's massive. No one's messing with that guy. So that, to me, easy call. You know who I'm going with in the past, though? You know who I'm going with? I'm going with Jason Varitek. Of course. You're talking about Derek Jeter, the captain. Why isn't Varitek coming up here? But Jason Varitek, that was my captain, right? You got the A-Rod brawl. That dude just was the heart and soul of that team, man. All those Red Sox teams, Jason Varitek, he just stood up for you, man. That was just a dude, right? Wasn't afraid to get dirty. He was an intense guy. Loved Jason Varitek. I would absolutely love Jason Varitek to be my partner in a bar fight. I don't condone violence. If I ever did get into a situation, I would either want Aaron Judge or Jason Varitek. Nick Castellanos is a good one too. Ben in the chat. Nick Castellanos, that's a fun one. I do like that. Brendan DH, Billy Martin, that's fun. I like that one. Hepatitis, see you later. Yasiel Puig, that's a fun one. Bucket getter, Brandon Marsh, pretty cool. Hey, I see Anthony in the chat. I don't think you were responding to this question, but you said Randy Johnson. Randy Johnson, that dude's, I would love to have that guy with me. How about Nolan Ryan? Nolan Ryan was a freaking nutcase. Absolutely. Bob talking about Jose Ramirez, obviously. I think that's why this question was brought up. I would imagine it's why, because you just did have that. Hey, Jose Ramirez, that dude's swinging, man. I'm going Jose Ramirez. I'll be okay with that. Everyone, I'm out of here. Keeping it short and sweet tonight. Nothing crazy. Just wanted to go over a Q&A, for everyone tonight. I want to start getting back to, doing some more like weekly streams like this, whether if it's a Q&A, hot takes, something like that. So if you can, everyone, just look out for the posts, look out for the community tab posts, and really want to start, getting these going again. So be on the lookout for those. Everyone, we got power rankings this Sunday. Be on the lookout for that. Tomorrow is my first day of school. I'm back to work already. If you feels like it's been a little quiet here, well, that's because I've been back to work this past week. But tomorrow is my first day of school, right? Teaching 4th grade this year. Got the kiddos coming back tomorrow. So I got to get out of here. I got to get some sleep. And I got to get ready because it's going to be a busy day tomorrow. Also, everyone, don't forget about our sponsor for tonight. Proudly partnered with Underdog Fantasy. Click the link in the description down below. You get a double on your first deposit up to $100. The promo code is HYDE. Make sure you go check it out. We are sponsored here by BetOnline as well, a fantastic source for all your sports betting needs, whether that's Major League Baseball, UFC, even tennis, I don't know, whatever sport you want, you can go check it out on BetOnline. Use the code BELIEVE, BLEAV. You get a 50% welcome bonus. And go check out SeatGeek as well. Use my code HYDE. You get $20 off there as well. Everyone, on the way out, if you can, hit that like button for me on the way out. Make sure you hit the bell notification. Share this stream for the people that weren't able to make it tonight. And subscribe if you're new. Everyone, I'm out of here. Thank you for stopping by. Thank you for all the questions. It was fun going through all those. We'll see you on Sunday for power rankings. I'm going to try and maybe upload something at some point this weekend. Not making any promises, but I'm definitely working on a couple of things. So, everyone, have yourself a great night. And we'll talk to you next time.